Oh, that's silly. Oh, hey everyone. We're going to be learning about the possessive marker today. The way you make it is very simple. You take any noun, so any person, place, or thing, and you attach 의. 의 is the possessive marker. Now, it's called the possessive marker, not because it
possesses your soul,
but because it shows possession. It shows ownership. Not just that someone owns something, but it's also like it's a part of something. And at its core, the way it works is it connects two nouns together. Seoul's weather, like the weather in Seoul. Seoul's weather is better than Busan's weather, like that. Actually, it's the other way around. This kind of matches up with the apostrophe S in English. For example, 철수's bag, the bag that belongs to 철수. So 철수 possesses the bag. So that's how this works, but it could also translate in English as of. For example, Seoul's weather, but you could also say the weather of Seoul. And it's the same exact meaning. In English too, it's the same meaning. The bag of 철수. That is exactly what this particle does. The first noun's second noun. When you use this syllable as the possessive marker, you can also pronounce it like this. A. Again, this is only when it's being used as the possessive marker. How can you tell? Well, it'll be at the end of some word. So if you see 의 at the end of a word, it might be the possessive marker. There are some words that just end with this syllable though that aren't. Let's do a few really quick examples. 철수의. You could say 철수의. It's just less common. So 집 is house, 철수's house, or the house of 철수. Now that sounds like an HBO drama I would watch. 철수의 돈, 철수's money, or the money of 철수. 철수의 친구. Who is that person? 철수의 친구야. A friend of 철수, or 철수's friend. Again, it's not that 철수 owns the friend. It doesn't have to be an object that you possess, like, I possess. It possesses it, but it doesn't actually own it necessarily. You can also use it for concepts because they are also nouns. 나 means me. So 나의, of me or my. 생각, thought, or it could be idea. So my idea, 나의 생각. Now, in everyday speech, you can remove this particle if it's not vague. 김치, 맛 means flavor. So 김치의 맛. So the kimchi's flavor or the flavor of kimchi. It's clear you mean kimchi flavor, right? You can actually just remove it. So you can just say kimchi 맛. The kimchi flavor is delicious, and it's fine in Korean. If the word would sound fine without an apostrophe S, without saying of, in English, it probably is going to be okay to not use the possessive marker. If you wanted to just say, this bag of chips is kimchi flavor, you're not saying this bag of chips is kimchi's flavor or it is the flavor of kimchi. You're more likely just saying a compound noun, kimchi flavor, right? You're just simply putting one noun after the other, in which case you wouldn't use the possessive marker. You're just saying kimchi flavor. Anytime you're making a compound noun, you probably don't need to add it because it's not going to be vague. Let me give you another quick example. 한국어 is Korean. 수업 is class. Korean class. You've made a compound noun. You're not necessarily trying to say that the class is belonging to 한국어 or that 한국어 is like somehow owning the class or anything. No, you're just making the word Korean class. So anytime you're simply making a compound noun, you can remove it. There are a few exceptions. 저 and 나 for I or me, and 너 for you. These, when you combine 의, you could just say 저의, my, 나의, my, 너의, your. But most of the time, you don't have to, but most of the time, these actually have another version. 저의 becomes 제, 나의 becomes 내, 너의 becomes 내. Wait, 내. What's the difference? This gets pronounced as ni, just like the famous knights who say ni. So 제, 내, and ni. And 것 or 거 means thing. If you want to say something is not like my bag, but what if you want to say that bag is mine? Anytime you combine 제 or 내 or ni with 것, you would get this. the pronunciation of these is different than how it's written. So instead of take-hot or take-call, it actually becomes a double consonant when you pronounce it. So this is pronounced as take-got, ne-got, ni-got. But just write that down. There's one more exception to using the possessive marker, and that is when you're using the word for we, such as 우리 or 저희. 저희 is a formal version of we, just basically more polite than 우리. It's humble speech. Most often, you don't add this, it's not necessary, after we. So instead of saying 우리의, it's also perfectly fine just to say 우리. 우리 학교. So like our school. And one thing I also have to mention about that, when you're talking about family members, and when you're talking about buildings that house multiple people, it's more common to say 우리 than to say 저의 or 제 or 내, etc., than to say my. So instead of saying like 제 아빠, my dad, it's more common to use 우리 아빠. And then school. If you're just a part of something like a school or a church or a house or a company like 학교, 집, 회사, 교회, then it's more common just to say 우리. When you're talking about pets, you have another option. You could either say 우리, like 우리 강아지, our dog, or you could say 우리 집 강아지, as in 집 is like our family, like our house. So like our house, our family's dog. 우리 강아지, 우리 집 강아지. And this will just be for pets. There's one more thing related to this that you should also know, and this is the part that's more for intermediate learners. Have you ever noticed a word that uses this letter, the S letter, known as siot, between words? Have you ever seen this in the middle of a word before? Like, I'll give you an example. I mean, you probably have seen it before, but have you noticed it? If you ever see this at the bottom of a syllable that's in the middle of a word, it's known as the sai-siot. Sai means between. So a between S is what it's technically called. You can think of this letter as being a squished version of 의. It's used when two words are combined together. But specifically, it's used when two words are combined together into one new word. Now, this is not just a compound word like Korean class. This is a compound word that's considered to be now one word. And all of these words are already in the dictionary. Woohoo! That means you don't need to know how to do this yourself. But anytime you see this, it means treat this word as one word. Kimchi is kimchi and 국 is like stew. So kimchi stew. Now you can just think of it as one word. Kimchi stew. So here are two words, kimchi and 국. Anytime this happens, the first syllable of the second word becomes double. So it's not 김치국, it's 김치국, 김치국. Again, the first letter of the second word becomes a double consonant, if it can. So when does this happen? It'll only happen when the first word ends with a vowel. Otherwise, you won't be able to add this letter if it ends with a consonant. Otherwise, it's there, but you won't see it. And this only happens if both of these words, but at least one of the words, is native Korean. It's not going to happen between Sino-Korean words. Again, though, even if you don't see it, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. The first example I'll give you is one of those. Water meat is the word for fish. Originally, this word, 물, was 물. This is an old form of it. What happens here? Because this is the second word, it starts with a letter that can become a double consonant, so you pronounce it as not 고기, but 고기, 물고기. So that's why this one's 물고기. Okay, let me give you a couple more examples. 차 is tea. 집 is a restaurant. Literally means house, but you can think of it as like restaurant, cafe. So 차, 집. If you combine these to make a tea house, 차, 집. So it gets pronounced as 찻집. 찻집 means tea house. 고추 is pepper. 가루 is like powder. 고춧가루. Again, it's not written that way, but it's pronounced that way. 고춧가루. So now you have red pepper flakes. Okay. And that is our lesson. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.